So I can make a YouTube video, hit some golf balls, and I can qualify for a PGA Tour event? Is this what's going on?
You can't.
Why not?
Maybe.
I wasn't invited.
You're
wasn't
in the
invited.
scratch region. You've got a shot with a big enough following, and I think, if you can get another 1.25, you'll be in contention. Me, I need a little bit of a different kind of tournament.
5, 4, 3, 2, 1. We got a new countdown going. What's up, everybody? How you living? No putts given. Tony and Chris. We're back. You have a good weekend, Tony?
It's all right. I'm trying to get healthy, so I've been sick for forever, really, seems like. So
months.
Hopefully back on the mend.
I blame the PGA show.
Oh, it was well before that.
I still blame the PGA show, I think.
It didn't help. Definitely didn't help. Are you wearing a shoes? Piece of shoes apparel?
I'm wearing a shoes. This is a shoes.
Larry David, man.
Hoodie. I know. Larry David. Yeah, I know. I saw that. That was the man is unstoppable. Man, a lot of stuff to get to in this episode. Anthony Kim's maybe back. What? YouTube?
Yeah.
If I make a video on YouTube, Tony, I can try to qualify for a PGA Tour event?
I think you're a few steps away yet, but you got to start somewhere.
That's basically what I understand. Then I got a list of 5 quick questions, a couple fun little topics, but before we get into all of that, allegedly, the PGA Tour hosted an event in Mexico at Verante, and
excuse me, what?
Como se crocodile? Yeah, so we got to talk about this because people pointing this out on the interwebs and things. Mark Lai, who announces stuff for Live. I don't always appreciate his opinion, but he made a good point here a little bit.
I think his opinion is whatever Live tells him to say. But.
Yeah, I mean, read off the cue card. But when you looked at, the leaderboard and some of that stuff, and even my wife, who, entirely my fault, but she recognizes a lot of golf names now. She's like, who the hell are these people? It looked like a Korn Ferry / DP World Tour type of event. And I'm not trying to be disparaging, to those players, but what is going on here, Tony?
Yeah, I mean, it felt a little bit like an alternate field event in a week in which there was not an alternate field. But I mean,
right.
Look, they can't all be winners, right?
No,
we talk about this. It's filler, right? It's all filler between majors for the most part, and some filler has to be a little fluffier than others, I guess. And this is not the greatest field in the history of golf, but I mean, it wasn't all nobodies. It's Cam Young.
Tony Finau was there. He didn't
Tony
factor
Finau,
in.
Keith Mitchell.
Keith Mitchell was there.
I mean, there's a handful, 3 handfuls of guys.
Yeah.
Lanto Griffin.
God bless Lanto. I mean,
yeah,
the tour is hoping that the 4 or 5 names that are actually recognizable play well, obviously make the cut, get into the weekend, and it's easier to put some emphasis behind that. But I think what you can't deny is there's stratification, right? Where you have, like I said, it felt like an opposite field event on a week when there wasn't another event. We see that, right? Where you got the top 50 in the world, they're playing an event, great. That's going to draw all the marquee players. And then you do have an opposite field event where you get guys that are maybe a little lower down in status, or recent Korn Ferry Tour grads that are trying to get starts, or whatever the case is. I mean, Lord knows that you're able to fill the field with, a number of different players. But my question is this a good thing for the PGA Tour?
What are you going to do? So it's not the best thing in the world, because you want like the best week after week. That's what we talk about, the guys you want to see. But I mean, realistically, we've talked about this before. The only guy anybody really wants to see is Tiger. Everybody else is the B tier anyway.
Yeah.
And so sometimes if you're starting at the B tier, you're going to go down to the C tier and the D tier. And it is an inevitability, I think. But it's not the end of the world. And I'm looking at like, hey, Jake Knapp he's going to the Masters.
Yeah.
Unless and the next guy who wins a LIV tournament, unless he's already qualified by some other means pre-LIV, he's not. And so, you take that for what it's worth. But I think you could argue it's good in the sense that it does give some of these guys that are, again, considered C tier, D tier, gives them an opportunity to get into some bigger tournaments. So,
yeah, I think it's good.
Not everything has to be for me. This is good for Jake Knapp.
Yeah, I mean, is it good for the tour? No, I mean, on one hand, no, it's not. In the sense that the leaderboard, there aren't casual golf fans, right? People, if you're trying to draw more people into the tent, if you want more people to watch PGA Tour golf on the weekends or anytime or whatever, this makes it tougher to do that. I think it's a necessary downside, or it's collateral damage of doing what they're doing with signature events. And we're going to talk about LIV a little bit with maybe AK and some of this YouTubeization or whatever of golf. You're seeing people get pulled in different ways for entertainment purposes, but it was good for Jake Knapp. Like you said, he, the $1.5 million is nice or whatever, but you can't argue that for the golfers, like if you like to really look at those stories, I mean, it was a life-changing weekend for him. That's awesome. And those stories, to me, never get old. I like those stories. I get that not everybody does.
The PGA Tour had its way. Right. If you could script the world, like a WWE, Tiger would play every week, and he would win or be in contention every week.
Sure.
And that is talked about this forever. Was the needle, is the needle, and is for the foreseeable future, sadly, the only real needle on the tour anywhere.
Right.
And you're not going to get that. And so, if you don't have Justin Thomas and Ricky Fowler and Jordan Spieth and those guys in the field, you're left with, I don't want to say nothing, because again, dude punched his ticket to the Masters. What'd you say? $1.5 million? That's a good day. Not everything has to be for the viewer. We've talked about this. We can bitch about commercials too, I'm sure, and maybe you can argue in a tournament of this stature, maybe we shouldn't have commercials at all, just on principle. But take it for what it is. You gotta have these events, otherwise, you got nothing. And maybe, I guess some people may argue that nothing is better than something, but I'll go the other way and say, hey, it's PGA Tour golf. It's not the best field ever. It's not. Yeah. Entirely composed of guys you haven't heard of either. So
no, and
you don't get to choose the leaderboards.
Yeah, it won't always be that way. I think the challenge is to find the compelling story and wrap their head around that, like, which they were able to do to a degree. Like they, I wish they would. I do. I really wish the tour would lean into Ryan Finch a little bit more and find a better way to work with him. It feels like they're working against him sometimes, but he does all the Monday Q stuff. He has all the background, right, on these guys, where they came from. A way to make the stories interesting other than just posting that, hey, Jake Knapp was a bouncer at a nightclub a couple years ago or whatever, and, they get one snippet of truth and then they have to run with it, right? Whether, is somebody that...
Every hour on the hour. Let's make sure we mention it again.
Yeah, I mean, this guy during COVID was, doing A, B, or C, or, took, the night shift at the grocery store to stock shelves to pay tour entry fees. And it's like, once you get that, and that's all they have. But I guarantee there's probably a lot more to the Jake Knapp story than just
the tour hasn't been great about finding stories or creating stories because they haven't had to. And again, you see it. The story is always Tiger. It's if he's in an event, it's Tiger, and if he's not in an event, you still find a way to talk about Tiger. And this has been the pattern for as long as I can remember, and there is no plan B right now. Right. So
that's the challenge, though. I think right there is the plan B people, and kind of what does that planning look like, which in a way gets us right into a plan B that maybe nobody saw coming. People always wanted. The white whale of the golfing world being, who on earth will get Anthony Kim to play tournament golf again? So, quick recap. It's been over a decade since we've seen the AK, the brash, the belt buckles, the in your face, bravado. But people really liked him, I think, for that. And then, poof. Injuries, insurance stuff, couldn't play golf to make sure, like you have that where, okay, you can get the insurance and you draw on that, but you can't go back and play professional golf. So it's like, well, is it ever worth it for him to forego that insurance and try to play golf again? Well, somebody can write a check.
Guaranteed money. That was always the obstacle, right? Like, because if you, as was reported, you owe money or have to pay back your insurance policy if you are not, in fact, injured for life. But are you going to risk that, come back to the PGA Tour where you may never cash a check again?
No way.
No. Live money, guaranteed.
So this is happening. We think it's happening. It's all but assured. I can't say it's 100%, but if you saw the trailer that Liv put out, it obviously is.
How ridiculous was that trailer?
I thought it was,
like it looked like a trailer for a post-apocalyptic, apocalyptic zombie film, maybe season 2 of The Last of Us. I mean, burning trees.
I was thinking it was going to be like
everything just so grossly over the top ridiculous.
I wanted it to be like AK as Mad Max or something like.
That was kind of how it was framed.
Yeah, like it was. That's so, again, until he actually tees up and hits the ball, we can't say he's 100% there, but by all indications, right? So,
yeah, it's a highly credible rumor at this point.
Sure. What's the risk for him coming back? Is there any risk for him doing this, do you think, or what?
I mean, the only risk is people who have unrealistic expectations. Like, if you expect him to come back and be what he was, or worse still, you expect him to come back and be what people kind of have got it in their head over time that he was, right? That, like, the next Tiger Woods to an extent,
right?
And so that's just perception. But otherwise, like, the money is guaranteed,
right?
He's gotten paid,
right?
I mean, maybe the risk is he gets hurt again and has to live on whatever Liv is paying him, which still I think he could probably get by.
Right.
So yeah, I think it's low risk for him. I think it's nothing but upside for Liv.
Yeah.
I mean, I'd go so far as to say that short of Tiger Woods at this particular point in time, Anthony Kim is the single biggest get out there.
Ooh.
And you could talk about, like, for the long term, yeah, okay, Jordan Spieth, Justin Thomas, Rory rumors, whatever.
Sure.
But in terms of, like, a quick hit, generate a lot of interest, get people to look at the product and decide if they really like it.
Yeah.
Anthony Kim is about as big as it gets.
He'll draw eyeballs.
Just because he's golf's Bobby Fischer. It just up and disappeared, right? You're like, all right, where'd that guy go?
Well, and I think that's just it. And I don't know how people can't have those expectations of him, because that's the intrigue. The intrigue is, hey, here's what I remember this guy being. Like you said, straight up Bobby Fischer's it. And in my head, that's my picture, right? The kind of, like I said, bravado, in your face, big AK, diamond encrusted belt buckle, throwing haymakers, top 10, obviously top 5 type player in the world. Kind of a generational talent is kind of where he was headed, right? Where it's like, okay, this guy can kind of be, who knows how good, right? Kind of, let's see what happens. And to me, the risk is, what if he's not that? And the reality is, there's a pretty good chance he's not that, just because it's 10 years as well. So, like, I see this as one of those things where there might be, like, to me, there's a risk that this takes away from the Liv product.
In the long term, maybe, but, and that's right. You said the risk is to Liv, not to Anthony Kim. If they spend, all this money on Anthony Kim and he comes out and shoots 82, 84, 78, and he does that, this time, the first time out, and the next time, and the time after that, you realize, all right, this guy's not competitive.
Right.
Then they've spent money, got eyeballs for 2 weekends, and it's over. But if he comes out and shoots a 68, goes really low, 66, if he's competitive, Liv is at least watchable for the short term.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that's what is realistic to expect of him, and personally me, I don't expect him to come out and be the Anthony Kim he was. I think people are going to jump to a lot of conclusions whether he plays well or not. He's either all the way back and this is the greatest thing ever and this is going to save Liv and this is amazing, or oh well, we
Good
tried.
Try. Thanks
it was
for
nice.
playing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it does seem like a little bit of a gamble for Liv, but you could argue right where that tour is right now, the viewership is not increasing in any measurable way. There's not a lot of interest in a major TV deal, and that I would say right now, for among those who watch golf,
sure,
and that's a low percentage of people who watch anything, but of
God
those
bless you all.
The majority that watch golf, Liv is the second choice product. When it goes head to head with the tour, it loses. Yeah. And unless something happens to change that balance, we just continue on this path. And yeah, you can poach one player at a time here or there. And, maybe it's somebody that draws somebody to Liv. Chances are it's not, because the tour guys are still the ones you watch playing majors and things like that. But anything that's a step forward, anything that brings it closer to not being a second choice product is ultimately good, I think, for Liv. Well,
and I think regardless, it's going to answer one of the biggest unknown questions to a degree, right? What happened to Anthony Kim? Can he still play? It's going to give us some type of information. It may not entirely close the door on that chapter, whether depending on how he plays or not, but it's going to start to answer that question. And it's something people in golf have been wondering for the last, decade plus. So we'll see. We know Greg Norman came and said he wants Hideki. There's been rumors, really unsubstantiated rumors, around Rory, which I think are basically a bunch of, hogwash at this point.
Honestly, it wouldn't surprise me, to be honest with you.
That's my question.
Rory got thrown under the bus
between those two.
Think about it.
Between Hideki and Rory, which would be the first person? Who would be the first person to go to Liv?
I would think it would be Hideki. Just kicking. We've heard this over and over and over again, and we know the interest in attracting the Asian market, and we've heard rumors about even a Shrixon sponsored team. And again, all rumors, but maybe. I mean, it makes sense, right? Diversify your bonds and whatnot.
Wu-Tang.
Rory, I think, again, it seems like a stretch, but I feel like he, more than anybody else, really got worked over by the tour, and they're kind of all of a sudden being like, cool, we'll go along with it, right? We're going to sign this framework with Piff, because, he was the guy. Yeah. He was the guy that was ride or die with the tour more than anybody. And they're just kind of like, forget all that. You know what? Everybody's going to get paid. That's kind of the F you get for Liv. If they, can go get Rory, and I'm not sure it raises them to the first choice tour, but woof.
But man, if you got either one of those two, that would be majorly significant. I agree that Hideki would be more likely than Rory, with one exception. Hideki would seem to be like a very calculated move, right? Like you said, if a brand like a Srixon were in there as part of sponsorship, he has a long-standing relationship. Hideki is the guy that jumps equipment companies, right? Stuff like that. He is, I think it's fair to say, one of the most popular athletes across any sport in Japan. So he has an entire following. He has a team. So if he were to go to Liv, I think it would be a calculated decision based on all of these factors. Whereas Rory, I could see it being a knee-jerk kind of like, hey, like you said, F you. You guys rolled the bus over me, backed it up. I'm out. And emotional decisions, things like that, could be more spontaneous, I guess. So if Rory did something like that, who knows? And again, it's Greg Norman talking, so the chances are more likely than not that nothing's going to happen, or that he's going to be wrong and feed people a bunch of nonsense, like you're going to get official world ranking points. All right,
guaranteed.
Tony, you're going to make a YouTube video and play on the PGA Tour. What? What?
Yeah, no.
So is this seriously a thing?
Guy.
YouTube golfers are going to have the chance to play one qualifying round, and the winner gets a start on the PGA Tour. It is an opposite field event.
Still counts.
Still counts. Is this brilliant or straight up gimmick?
It's brilliant, and those aren't mutually exclusive. Like, it's a little gimmicky, sure, but
it's both, yeah.
But I think it's brilliant. You're gonna get all of these guys, or a lot of them. I'm not gonna pretend to know every one of the names.
Nope.
And kind of what their background, and I certainly don't follow most on YouTube, but it's not lost on me. I'm not oblivious to the fact that a lot of these guys, or all of them, have some sort of following. And that potentially equals eyeballs for the PGA Tour on an event, which would otherwise make last weekend in Mexico look like the Masters. So, yeah, and this is part of it. It's how do you make this filler more interesting, more engaging?
Right.
So right. I don't have any kind of issue with it at all.
No, and there's there's going to be a made for TV part. I agree. I think it's brilliant. And here's why I think it's brilliant is, one, if you look at the list of players, they have an insurance policy in here, right? It's built as, hey, the YouTube golfer qualifier, whatever, right? And people go, oh my gosh, like Fat Perez could be on the PGA Tour? That's crazy. Well, sorry, Fat Perez, I don't think you're going to make it through this. You look through the list, they have 3 or 4 guys in here that should be one of those 3 or 4, right? Jay Card third. He's played 39 different events on the Korn Ferry Tour. Scott Stevens, 21 starts, Korn Ferry Tour last year. Matt Atkins, 25 PGA Tour starts, 1 on the Korn Ferry Tour, right? Turk Pettit won the 2021 NCAA championships when he was at Clemson, blah, blah, blah. So you have that group.
This is not a bunch of YouTube hacks or even what you would call like average YouTube golfers, the guys that are around scratch, give or take, right?
Right.
This is legitimate. So
yeah. So those guys are all.
I mean, I don't know what all of these handicaps are. And like, Peter Finch can hold his own. Grant can hold his own. I don't know about Dan Rappaport from Barstool. I legitimately have no idea, but I would assume
Morris.
if he's
he's a good player. I mean, so you have good So I guess my point is, you have these guys that are legitimate professional golfers that are in, or have status now, playing now, whatever. It should be one of them. But here, the brilliant part to me is, if it isn't, it's an awesome story. If it's Micah Morris, what a story, right? If it's one of the other guys, I mean, somebody random, again, it's an 18-hole qualifier. So could Tyler Watts, a high school sophomore, win? Well, it's over 18 holes. A lot of things are possible. And then you have all these guys, the Peter Finches, Micah Morris, et cetera, Dan Rapport, whatever. They're going to be creating all this content for their own channels.
It's brilliant in that respect, because it's eyeballs on something that would never have eyeballs. And
yes.
And I think, right, like, for better or worse, call it unfortunate if you will, but if Atkins or Stevens gets through, you probably don't get the same eyeballs you get if it's Peter Finch or Micah Morris or Grant Horvat, but
right,
you still got something, right?
Well, yeah, and you think about what's the risk. What are they giving up? Nothing. They're giving up one spot in an opposite field event that, again, you're going to have people that are, you're going down pretty far on some of these lists to fill the field anyway. You're giving up one spot for that.
And we keep hearing, right, like, PGA Tour needs to be more entertaining, has to do all these things differently. Well, this is different. It has the potential to be more entertaining. And again, I think it's low percentage that one of the guys with the highest entertainment value gets through. You're starting somewhere.
Yeah, I think it'd be, they probably won't do it, but imagine if you said, hey, we'll take the top 2 guys, they get through, and they get to play in the PGA Tour event as a 2-man best ball team. And let's just see how they would do. You know, there's so many things. Yeah, I mean, they could do some stuff, but I like it. It's going to happen, Myrtle Beach Classic, I guess. So it's going to be whatever that is, end of April, beginning of May, like when the actual content stuff would come out. The tournament itself, I think, is beginning of May, something. So we're a ways off, but, again, nonetheless, interesting to track. Question time, Tony. Let's drop into the mailbag. We got questions. People coming out with questions. Took some of this from the social feeds and things. I'm going to start with a ball question for you, Tony, because I got golf balls on my shelf. I got some in the garage. Maybe sometimes you go through them all. Do golf balls go bad? Like, or is it like...
balls certainly did. So if you've got old Bellata, forget about
the
them.
Stuff in my fridge. But like if I got 20 dozen Pro V1 sitting here in the garage from, whatever, are they going to go bad on me?
They're going to change a little bit. So, every year or so they'll get a point or two compression point firmer. And then after like 3 years, it levels off or so. So, yeah, I mean, they'll get a little firmer. That's about it. So that'll change performance a bit. But, it's not like a Bellata where after just a year or two, they're not round, they're undersized, dilapidated, and saggy. So... different world with solid core.
Follow up to that. Is there anything like, as again, we're getting from spring or this early spring stuff, it's still going to be cold and, these pieces, but like hot versus cold. Like if I go out to my garage or I got stuff in my car, go to play a round of golf, what about hot versus cold?
I mean, it depends on the extreme, right? If you're really, really hot, 100 plus baking out in the sun, they're gonna play a little differently. Likewise, if they're really, really cold and frozen, they're going to play a lot differently. But, within a sensible range, kind of the conditions that most people are going to play in. And, yeah, you're going to be all right.
Yeah, if they're chilly, put them in your pocket for a while, let them warm up. You'll be just fine. You're going to be fine. Tons of embargoes. All the new equipment that's out there. We have all the testing that is due out here soon. People are asking questions. I got this question just yesterday, doing a little indoor simulator golf with some buddies. Hey, is that TaylorMade driver with the blue face better than the one with the red face? The question is basically, is newer equipment always better? And so of course it's not, but let's give an example where it very well may not be, and maybe an example where it absolutely is. Go.
Well, I mean, fundamentally, right? It may just not fit you as well. We change center of gravity locations, whatever it happens to be. So if you like, hey, all right, we've got some new face technology, whatever it happens to be, or where more forgiving is a great one, right? Because sometimes, yeah, you're more forgiving, but maybe moving that center of gravity farther back to get that forgiveness makes it spin too much for you, or for whatever reason we sometimes see with back CG clubs, sometimes golfers swing them slower. So that's a perfect example of a change which is better on paper. Like, hey, it's more forgiving, may not deliver the same performance as the previous model, even though it's less forgiving.
Yeah, I would say too, like if you're absolutely dialed into a spec, and I think you can look at examples like this. Well, take Jake Knapp, for example, one on the PGA Tour, obviously this week. I think he had G425 LST ping driver in the bag. It's not the 430. It's not their newest model, but for him, I'm assuming that newer wasn't better, and better can mean a lot of different things to certain golfers, but it's also about, like you said, I think asking yourself, what is the job of that club in your bag, and is it doing that really well? I think that's why you see guys that it may not replace a hybrid or 5-wood or 3-wood and some of these things. Like, if this is the job of that club, just because a new club is quote unquote newer and better, that doesn't mean it's going to necessarily do the job better for you. So that's why you have to ask yourself that question, like, hey, what is the job of this? And is that going to, have any kind of meaningful difference? It may not. And if it doesn't,
I would say it is rare, if not unheard of, that you do a 1-for-1 replacement next generation model, and it's better for absolutely everyone who picks it up. Like, because again, we're past that age where you can deliver significant yardage increases year over year. We're past the point where you can deliver a functional MOI increase. And I say functional because, you know, if you're playing a driver that has MOI, say around 5,000, just in that heel toe region, and we get you one of those ones that's now 5,900, it may not work as well for you.
Right.
Might not be geared correctly, whatever you want to call it, right? Because as an individual, you still need to deliver that club with all its forgiveness in a way that ultimately is better than how you were delivering the other. So,
All right, example. When is it almost always better? Where you would go, hey, newer equipment? Yes, absolutely. I'll give you an easy one. You want an easy one?
Yeah, I want to hear this.
Wedges. Things that are going to wear out. So newer, if you're sitting there and you're saying, hey, I can't remember the last time I bought a wedge, it's time to buy a wedge. Guy at our course, pretty good player. He's like 6 handicap, 7 handicap, good player. Looking at his wedges, he's like, you know, do you think I need new wedges? I looked at his club. It was an SM5. It was like concave. Like the face wasn't just flat, you know. There was like a little scoop. Almost it looked like you could catch the ball. There are clubs that will wear out. Really, it's wedges. So I would say,
and that's maybe
that's
a case
cheating.
of newer being better because your old ones have worn out to an extent, even if you don't always notice.
Yeah. So like I said, low hanging fruit, easy answer. But what else? What else is newer, likely going to be universally better for someone?
Well, I don't know. Unless right, you're talking about something that's effectively disposable, and you hate to think of your wedges as disposable, but that is the reality.
Yeah.
I mean, again, you can talk about if your driver is so old that it has been surpassed in technology in a meaningful way, or, you know, God forbid, it's materials 3-5 years ago even weren't as durable as they are today. So if you and you're probably not going to notice, but if you've kind of flattened out your face a little bit, something like that, then the newer is almost certainly going to be better. But you know, otherwise it's 1 year to the next. One is probably, you know, better, worse, or the same, right? Those are the 3 options, but it's not always a lean heavily towards better.
Fill in this sentence, Tony. Fill in the blank. Night golf is blank.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't know. I haven't done it except with like the goofy glow ball stuff. So
I'm talking like a course
stadium,
lit up.
Stadium style. I mean, it's anything that creates more opportunities to play is probably good. I'd be willing to try it.
Yeah.
I've played in darkness without lights. That wasn't great. So this seems better.
You fell in a bunker once.
Oh man, it was so bad. That hurt.
In limited lighting.
That hurt.
Situations. I think night golf is exciting. I remember the first time I went night skiing. Kind of same type of idea. They'd have limited runs open and stuff at night, and it was so different. It was so cool. I want to see more of it. I like that a lot. Next one. Titleist has a new docuseries coming out, Tony. Are you going to watch it?
I will. Yeah, I enjoyed the first one, the speed.
You were in the first one. That's a
No. I found it very enjoyable. I thought it was great.
No, you didn't.
Very
you were
well
in
produced. I thought the people that were in it were excellent. They were knowledgeable.
Except for all the stuff they cut out that you said. Other than that, it was good.
I'd like a duo. Come on, guys. But yeah, I think and I don't know if we won't say what it's about yet, but that drops Thursday, which will be the day after this post. It'll be Titleist's second docuseries, and it's something we've talked a lot about because they talked to us quite a bit about it and what their objectives were. So I'll definitely check it out for sure.
I'll watch it. I think particularly because I think, we talk in media sometimes about this, how who's the best person to tell a story, and sometimes you can argue maybe the brand is a better person to tell a certain story. Now, maybe that doesn't come off as authentic at times because you say, oh, geez, this is a car company, with their background story and how awesome their car is and how it was built. You're like, okay. Like, great.
Look how great we did.
Yeah, look at that. But I do think it's interesting in that space as companies maybe try to do some of their own bidding in the marketplace, and as they're trying to craft identities and things, right, or continue to craft identities, and that's why I'm interested. I'm definitely going to watch tomorrow as well. We have an article coming out on the DIY simulator stuff. So if you're interested in doing any type of simulator things in your house or in another place or whatever, that's coming out tomorrow too, which made me want to ask me, how is your simulator situation going in your house? Tell me about this.
And what I wouldn't give for some more ceiling height, and we'll see in the summertime, I may move it into the garage because I have the height there and figure out how to work around garage.
I thought you were going to say, well, maybe in the summer I'll dig out my foundation a little deeper.
Maybe in the summer I'll just put it in my backyard and screw my neighbors. Well, live here at your own risk. No, so it's ongoing, and I still have a couple we tried it. I'm way behind on. I've got a different mat to check out as well as a net/projector screen combo that actually is really cool and super functional. So
yep.
And I'm starting to do some things now, messing around a little bit, and maybe I don't know yet, but I'm considering putting out some challenges on Twitter/X and have people try some things, maybe do some ball giveaways, things like that. So I got some ideas. I'm kicking around fun stuff. So
I would like people to talk about those. What kind of challenges can we do? Like this is here's
the first one. Right?
Okay, give me the first one. I'm writing it down.
And this just came into my head because I was trying some stuff, checking out some things. So if we end up doing it, we'll call it the spin it to win it challenge.
Oh, spin it to win it. I like it.
And so it'll be use any wedge, use any golf ball. We'll stipulate that the wedge be conforming. Hopefully people honor system here, obviously, but
come on, people.
And we'll say
use those groove sharpeners and
highest. We want to see who can get the highest spin on a shot that carries no more than 30 yards. So that'll be if we do it, that'll be the first one.
30 yards carry.
Maximum 30-yard carry.
Okay. All right. Spin it to win it.
And so I'm thinking we'll show, and it's got to be like a 3-shot average, and we don't care what launch monitor you use. I'm a Foresight quad guy.
You're a Foresight quad guy.
But we'll let use what you have. I'm not saying if you want to participate. Step one, if you want to win a dozen golf balls, step one, go spend $15,000 on a launch one. Because I think at that point, maybe just buy a dozen golf balls.
You probably just buy the dozen golf balls. Or, hey, how about this? If you don't want to spend $15,000, there are other options out there, right? You can, I'm going to quick plug for our friends over at Unicore. Got to mention them in that space. Yeah, I mean, they're like I said, you don't have to have the $15,000, $18,000, $25,000 situation. There are solutions out there. So if you want to get in on these challenges, by the way, I like this. I may have to come up with. I knew I had something, Tony. I knew I had something I could throw in the giveaway.
Of course you do. Of course.
But yeah, I mean, if you're in that space, if you're like, hey, I don't want to spend more than $1,000, maybe you look at Rapsodo. If you're saying, hey, I want to spend $3,000, $4,000, $5,000, again, that's what I'm saying. This Unicore brand, I kind of feel like they're gonna dominate that space. They're really, really good in that space. So maybe you got that. If you're willing to look in that $8,000, $10,000, $12,000 space, there are options. If you're going to the Tony land, the Foresight land, you're going to be north of 15, likely into the 20 plus. So the solid, it's like, do I do the launch monitor or a Honda Accord? Well, maybe depends what you need.
Whatever you choose, whether it's Unicore, whether it's Foresight, Bushnell, Rapsodo.
Yep.
Like just, in a lot of cases, not every case, in a lot of cases, something will be better than nothing, especially to start out and just be able to have something that allows you to swing. Like I've got a buddy who bought the Golf. Right?
Oh, Yeah.
A little kind of
Yeah.
short club indoor simulator. Plays it with his kids, loves it, and so he's doing a little something.
Yeah.
Is it enterprise class accuracy? No. But is it fun? Is it getting him playing golf in a time when or something golf adjacent at a time when he wouldn't be? Hell yeah, love it.
Find what works for you. I'm excited. We're gonna. If you have other challenges you think could be fun, post those below too. I would love to hear more about those. And like I said, little teaser. We have some testing results coming soon to a theater near you. We're working on it, so stay tuned on that.
A little bit of a small website redesign to accommodate. So
sorry about that, but we're getting there.
Never ends.
Never ends. Until next week, if you have questions, let us know. Golf Spy T, Golf Spy C. We're out there on the interwebs. Find us, follow us, do all those things. And until then, we out.